At the White House today, the Prime Minister of Ireland visited Donald Trump. The Irish Prime Minister has a standing appointment to get together with the President of the United States once a year, just like Melania. Prime Minister Martin brought a bowl of shamrocks to the president, which is the customary gift, and also the closest Trump's gotten to a salad that isn't in a taco shell in quite some time. You know, Ireland has both a prime minister and a president. Their president has been critical of Trump's war on Iran, and the prime minister today had to sit by quietly while Trump was asked about that.
The Irish president has said that your war against Iran is illegal. It's an attack on international law.
Who said that?
The Irish president.
Look, he's lucky I exist.
Well, then you should probably know that he is a she. The president of Ireland is a woman named Catherine Connolly. You know, yesterday he made the same mistake about the president of Venezuela, who's also a woman. The guy who's constantly screaming about transgender can't tell a he from a she anymore.
This is the same man who built his entire political brand on being tough, strong alpha, the guy who knows everything about everything. And he just confused the gender of two world leaders in 2 days. Both of them are women. Both of them heads of the state. And his response when he got corrected wasn't embarrassment. It was, he's lucky I exist. That's not confidence. That's a man who has never on his life been held accountable for being wrong.
Joe Kent, Trump's director of the National Counterterrorism Center, wrote, "I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation." And this is not some radical deep state operative left over from the Biden administration. Kent was a big MAGA guy that Trump appointed. You get the sense that every one of these Republicans has their ass cheeks clenched tightly right now, hoping he puts an end to this war as soon as possible. Trump said he will end it when he feels it in his bones. And then today, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson was asked to clarify that remark. He said, well, I think his bones are informed by the intelligence, which seems unlikely to me, seeing as how he doesn't even read the intelligence briefings they give him every day. His bones aren't informed by intelligence. His bones are informed by fried chicken and Boniva, okay?
When your own intelligence director, a man you appointed, a man who campaigned for you, a man who believed in your movement, resigns and says, this war is wrong. That's not the deep state. That's not fake news. That's someone from inside your own team telling you you made a mistake. And Trump's response was to double down and say he will end the war when his bones tell him to. The people who are supposed to hold him accountable are too scared to say what his appointee just said out loud.
Trump is so unhappy now with the news coverage of his little excursion into Iran. He had his lapdog at the FCC threaten to pull the broadcast licenses from the major networks. But what the president may lack in positive press from the networks, there are many patriots out there on deep cable, including Greg Kelly of Newsmax, who announced that the war has been won and something else I'm not exactly sure.
You know, I think we kind of just won the war. There's a real possibility of... Did you see it? They gave us pretty much everything we want. Yes, they're still lobbing things here and there, but no, I think we got this. Okay, dead, alive, gay, we don't know, but we are winning, and it could happen very, very soon. Total and complete victory.
Honestly, I have to say, I think dead, alive, gay could be the new F, Marry, Kill. That's a game, right?
He's threatening to pull broadcast licenses from news networks that cover his war in a way he doesn't like. Not networks that are lying, networks that are reporting. And the Newsmax guy declared the war as a win while simultaneously saying he has no idea if the supreme leader is dead, alive, or gay. That's the media landscape right now. One side is losing licenses or asking questions. The other side is declaring victory without knowing if the enemy leader is alive. And millions of people can't even tell the difference.
And so now he's pushing what he calls the Save America Act on Republicans in Congress. He said the Save America Act is one of the most important and consequential pieces of legislation in the history of Congress, and America itself No more rigged elections. No rigged mail-in voting. We are the only country in the world that allows this, which no, we aren't. Dozens of other countries allow voting. Canada, Spain, Germany, Switzerland, but go on. No men in women's sports. No transgender mutilization, which is not a word, by the way. And what do men in women's sports have to do with voting by mail? Maybe he's confusing M-A-I-L with M-A-L-E. I don't know. But then comes the threat. He says only sick, demented, or deranged people in the House or Senate could vote against the Save America Act. If they do, each one of these points separately will be used against the user in his/her political campaign for office. A guaranteed loss. I will never, ever endorse anyone who votes against Save America. And that, you know he means business because that's in all caps. He capped his pants once again, and this SAVE Act, this is nothing more than his attempt to hijack this upcoming election. It doesn't protect your right to vote. It does the opposite. It makes voting so difficult, a lot of people won't bother to do it, which is what he wants. In order to vote, you would need either a passport or a birth certificate to prove citizenship. In a lot of states, a driver's license alone won't do it. And on top of that, this problem he's trying to solve of non-citizen voting, it is not a problem. We all agree people who aren't here legally shouldn't be allowed to vote here, but they're not. That's the thing. In Michigan, for example, in 2024, 0.00028% of the votes were illegal. That is 15 people in a state with almost 88 million registered voters. There are more people masturbating in the voting booths than voting illegally. And by the way, those 15 people, that 0.00028, you know what happened to those people? They caught them. They got all of them. They got all 15. Meanwhile, half of U.S. citizens don't have a passport. That's 170 million of us. And do you know where your birth certificate is? Mine is with my baby teeth. I have no idea where it is. There is no election fraud to stop. This is an imaginary problem vomited up by our sore loser president who still can't deal with the fact that he lost to Joe Biden and knows he's about to lose bigly, so he's just making stuff up.
15 people in the entire state of Michigan with 8 million registered voters. That's the water drought problem he's trying to solve. And his solution is to require documents that 170 million Americans don't have. Half the country doesn't own a passport. Think about who that is. It's not the wealthy, it's not connected, it's the exact people who were promised their voices would finally be heard. The working class Americans who voted for him are the ones who will struggle most to meet these new requirements. He is suppressing the vote of his own base and calling it election security.
You see what he said about our governor, Gavin Newsom, yesterday? Gavin Newsom, in his book, he wrote a book, he talks about growing up with dyslexia, which Trump believes should disqualify him from running for president.
Honestly, I'm all for people with learning disabilities, but not for my president. I think a president should not have learning disabilities, okay? And I know it's highly controversial to say such a horrible thing. The President of the United States, Gavin Newsom, admitted that he has learning disabilities, dyslexia, everything about him is dumb.
Anyway, be best, everybody. This is a man who's posted thousands of misspelled words over the last 14 years. He thinks mutilization is a word in the English language. In that clip we just showed, he referred to Gavin Newsom as the President of the United States. And he's worried about Gavin Newsom's learning disabilities. Everything about him is dumb.
He called dyslexia disqualifying for a president. This man, who cannot spell, who invented the word mutilations, which doesn't exist, who referred to Gavin Newsom as the president of the United States in the same breath he used to mock Newsom's intelligence, who answers questions about a war, I feel it in my bones. He is genuinely, publicly, on camera, arguing that someone else is too cognitively impaired to lead. And not one person in that room stopped him. Not one aide. Not one advisor. Nobody. Because this is just Tuesday now.